Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Shivali and today's video is going to be about PhD applications. For today's video, we have a very special guest with us, Tuhin Chakraborty. Tuhin was a master's student at Columbia and now he's doing his PhD at Columbia, and he has years of experience in software industry in general and has a research profile that all PhD students envy. So this was a short introduction, but I don't think my introduction did justice to his research profile and Tuhin in general. So hi Tuhin, welcome to my channel.
Hi, Shivali. Thanks for all the kind words. I'm not sure I deserve them, but I really appreciate it.
So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about you?
Sure. So as you guys know, I am Tuhin, and I'm a PhD student at Columbia Department of Computer Science. And I mostly specialize in natural language processing and machine learning. And within that specific sub area, I work on implicit reasoning and how to teach computers to generate and understand text, which requires common sense reasoning and world knowledge.
Initially, your plan was to go for master's, but then you switched to PhD. So we'll talk more about what contributed to that decision. And also, I wanted to know a little more about your background. Where did you do your undergrad from, and did you have some experience before applying for masters? So anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. So I did my undergrad from a state school in Kolkata because I'm from West Bengal, Calcutta in India. So I finished my undergrad there. I did my undergrad in computer science and engineering for 4 years. And then I got a job at Amazon as a software development engineer fresh out of college. And I worked there for a while, and then I got bored. And then I was a software development engineer at Ola for a little while, and then Uber came to India and they decided to poach me from Ola. So I was working in Uber for like almost a year and a half.
Okay, so all in all, how many years work experience did you have?
I had around like 3 years of work experience.
Okay, so that's great. So that was basically your profile that you used to apply for master's admissions.
Yeah, I did.
So did you have any research paper before your master's?
No, unfortunately, I didn't have any research paper for my master's. That's something which I definitely think about and regret because I never thought research was something I wanted to do. So like there were several people who were very motivated during the undergrad, and they would like do research at like IITs or IISCs or like do summer schools at IIT Kanpur. I somehow would never think of that. And I guess my goal, like many other people during my undergrad, was to finish it and then like find a software engineering job, which was very common in India. And I had alumni who were like working there and were very successful. So I of course was motivated by that. And I thought that that's something which I wanted to do after my undergrad.
Yeah, I think that's the case with most of us. Your journey would be very helpful to those people who think who don't have any research papers and any experience right now, because seeing you, it is actually possible to get into a PhD program if you don't have anything up till your masters. You can obviously develop your profile after your undergrad as well. So that's a great point.
Thank you.
So before we talk more about the PhD stuff, the application process and the scores, another interesting thing about your master's journey is that you were the only person who got his master's program extended. So Columbia is very strict with their extension policy, and you have to complete your master's in 1.5 years, but you got it extended by one whole semester. And not only that, you were a GRA, so you didn't pay for that extended semester as well. So that's great. So can you tell us more about that, how that works, and why did you do that?
Yeah, definitely. So in general, there was an option for thesis masters in the Columbia CS website. The thing is, usually people don't do it because, again, for masters, there's a general consensus about like getting a job after masters, because to be honest, like living in New York City and like the Columbia tuition is just so expensive. So the first thing people think is like finishing the program and then having to like pay all those loans which they take for the master's program. So I guess not many people before me had done their thesis masters, but there was a student who did their thesis masters 2 years back, um, named Gaurav, and he was also doing a thesis masters with Kathy. So basically that kind of like gave me some inspiration. And when I was doing this research about that, if I wanted to um, do more research, it was very difficult for me to finish it in 18 months. The primary reason behind that is that first semester is basically only coursework. So you cannot literally think of starting research. And then by spring, you slowly start getting accustomed to research, but then it also like takes a lot of time to learn new concepts. So having a paper which is publication worthy is also like time consuming. And with all the stress going on about trying to finish the program within 18 months, it's really difficult. So like, is there any way to like get a small extension for at least a semester? Because I knew that the results I had, like I could actually publish 2 papers out of it, but all I need is just extra 6 months time to not think about coursework and just wholeheartedly dedicate my time to research. So with that, I basically talked in the department, and then like not to anyone who's at a very high position, but mostly to like Columbia CS admins. And then of course, the first reaction was like a bolt from the blue. They were like, no, you totally cannot do that. It's impossible. They led me to talk to ISSO people, and they said, we are very strict about this. And unless there is a medical condition or there any family problem, we do not give extensions. And then I was like, well, this is really frustrating. So then what I did was, the best thing to do is like talk to like very high people in the department, like people who have a lot of power. Like, so the first thing I did was I talked to like my faculty advisor for my master thesis, was Kathy McEwen, who's also one of the most world famous researchers, if you could think of it. And then also I was very closely working with Professor Smaranda Mureshan, who is now my PhD advisor. And they both were like, yeah, they both were like the best supporting mentors I could ever think of. Like, the moment I told them that, they were like, yeah, definitely this is a problem. And immediately the next day, Kathy started talking to multiple people. Mihalis Yanakakis, who was the chair of the MS program at computer science at that point of time. And all of them had a meeting. And then she wrote a letter to file a petition to be able to change that. And yeah, through that, then like it took some time, and then they sent that to the graduate student affair, like GSA body, and then they finally saw all of that and they approved it. I still remember the letter Kathy wrote about me. Like it was really sweet and really like nice. And I don't think at that point of time I still had so much research outputs to get that sort of a letter, but I'm immensely grateful for her kind support. So she did that, and then like the GSA approved, and then my master's got extended, and I got like a fresh I-20 for another 6 months. And that's how I ended up extending my 6 months of master's, and ended up like doing all the extra work related to research, which um, I could do. And yeah, and I could publish my master thesis work in like very prestigious venues in our field.
Oh, yes, that's amazing. I remember one of the conferences we attended together. It was in Minneapolis. I think it was NACL.
Yeah, it was NACL at Minneapolis. Yeah, which is where I met you. But that was also the first paper I worked as a part of my master's. This
Oh,
is I submitted that on 3rd December, which is exactly at the 18-month end. Imagine how I would just make the time to submit a paper if that was the time when my master's would end. I would have to apply for OPT. I would have to think about jobs. Like, it would totally not be possible to submit a paper in December, especially when the master's is ending. So yeah.
I did that, but it was not my last semester.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean,
But anyway, so does Columbia offer like a program where you can convert your master's into a PhD, or you have to apply like any other PhD applicant?
So yeah, I mean, in generally what happens is it's totally possible that you don't have to leave the campus. You definitely have to apply for a PhD program. You cannot directly just transition from master's to PhD because you have to understand those are separate STEM programs under the USCIS laws, and you have to get a new I-20. What could happen is if there's a faculty advisor who is ready to fund you, what they can do is immediately after your master ends, they can take you as a PhD student, given the fact that your US visa is still valid. But you still have to apply through the Columbia portal.
And did you apply for other schools as well?
I did, yeah, and I got admission to a lot of other schools as well.
You name like a few of them, the best
Yeah,
ones?
sure. UCLA, Yale, Georgia Tech.
Oh, perfect. Wow, that's incredible. And just talking about your PhD application profile, so can you give us some pointers, like, like pointers that people can take away that this was my GRE score, or this was, I had these many papers and these many conferences, just like reading out your resume kind of thing, like a quick overview of all your accomplishments that you mentioned in your PhD application.
Sure. I guess my profile was pretty simple in terms of like scores. Like my GRE score was nothing stellar. It was 321, which is very basic. But I should also note that GRE scores are not important at all. And several departments in the US have now dropped GRE. And if you have done a MS program in the US, they do not require GRE or TOEFL. That's the norm. In terms of research profile, I should also note that I didn't start my PhD immediately after my master's. Like I took a year break where I had two offers. One was from Snapchat as a research engineer, and one was at Amazon, and I didn't want to do them. I wanted to do more research so that my profile is very strong for a PhD application. So I spent a gap year working at University of Southern California with Professor Violet Peng, who is one of the famous professors in our field who works on text generation. So yeah, I mean, I got the offer and then I rejected all my industrial offers because I knew that if I could stay at USC and like work with her for a year, I could publish a lot more, and then like it would also give me more confidence. It's just not only publishing, because PhD is such a long journey and it's so scary and you just don't know if you're ready for it. Like just because I published during the masters and things work for me is not necessarily a PhD program for 5-6 years would be suitable for me. So I also wanted some more time to just work independently on research and not have any distraction and see if that's something I'm capable of or I'm fit for. So I started working with her, and then through that collaboration, actually, we had two more papers, one at ACL, which was on generating sarcasm, and then another at EMNLP, which was on generating similes. So when I applied for my PhD program, I think I had 3 first author acceptances in terms of like conference papers. And I also had 2 workshop papers. One was at ACL with Smara, and then one was also at EMNLP on like another topic. And then I had letter from Kathy, Smara, and also Violet. So, which is kind of in some ways really beautiful because they all are very well-known professors in NLP. Pretty much a lot of people know them. So, and then because I had personally published with all 3, so the recommendations also I did imagine would be a lot more stronger than just like my recommendation during my master's.
That's a very, very strong profile. Congrats on all your accomplishments, Tuhin.
Thank you so much.
And now coming to the point of like you actually doing the PhD, are you enjoying your journey now?
I am really enjoying my journey. It's probably one of the best decisions of my life. And I want to attribute that also to my like amazing advisor who you also worked with. I think I always thought that maybe a brand matters or like which school I go to, what is the thing, but I slowly came to the realization that nothing more matters than who you're working with. it's definitely like a boon for me, like to be able to work with someone who is just so much knowledgeable, fun, and at the same time like really kind.
Mhm. Yes, I can also vouch for that. She was the best professor I've known in my life as well. And my next question would be, how are you managing as a PhD student? How well do PhD students get paid?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like Columbia is actually one of the schools which pay the highest stipend. My stipend is 3850 a month, which is also what I was getting as a MSGRA. So yeah, which I feel is a lot of money actually, if you think in New York City as a student, because like after taxes, you would still have like around 3200, 3300 in hand, which is a lot. Like even if you think of like paying like 50% of the money with rent, and then the rest is what, just like food, like even if you want to eat outside every day, which doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, even if you do, I think it's pretty much affordable, right? And then like you can always like get extra money through like internships and all. So yeah, in terms of livelihood, I think it's pretty decent. It's a very good stipend amount. I know several schools which pay lesser than that. So
And you just mentioned the word internship. So is it easier getting internship being a PhD student?
well, I mean, it is definitely very easy to get an internship as a PhD student, because I think it's a lot more easy because one thing which is very good happens out of internship is like, as a PhD student, you're doing very focused internships, right? So it's mostly research internships. There are also software internships, but if you're doing research internships, you probably don't have to go through the ordeal of doing lead code or like Geeks for Geeks, which are like very stressful as an interview preparation stuff, right? So for research internships, it's mostly like you know who you want to work with. So they just basically have a call with you. They discuss what projects would interest both of you. And then, yeah, that's it. Like it's very simple. But
Someone needs to count the number of times I've said wow in this video, just listening to your profile and all the work that you're doing. So it just blows my mind how like you've done all of it in the last 2, 3 years.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess sometimes I'm surprised about that as well, because I generally feel it was a confluence of luck and all the good people who I just kind of encountered. It's almost surreal to believe that someone with no background, no connections, no academic privilege, for me to just come out of nowhere and then just meet all these amazing people who pulled me up from like where I was and whatever I am currently. So I guess that's just like good luck and like a lot of good people just helping me.
And lastly, for all the people who are applying for PhD programs, what would you say? Do you have any tips or some things that they should not miss out in their applications?
Yeah, in general, I feel if someone is applying for PhD without a master's degree, just from undergrad, I think it is definitely challenging if you're applying from an Indian school, which probably a lot of people in the US are not aware of. And then if you're applying from an IIT or IISc or like Delhi College of Engineering or like Triple IT, which are like great schools, have good research curriculum, great professors, like people still publish there in tier 1 conferences. So then I think it's slightly easier for you if you come with a slightly good research profile where people have published or know about the basic things. In general, the statement of purpose is really important in terms of that you write what you want to work on. But you know, PhD applications are also kind of mysterious, because some people say that your statement of purpose is important. Some people say it doesn't really matter, because some people write things on their SOP, and then PhD is such a long program for 5-6 years. You go on to work on something totally different what you wrote on your SOP. So like maybe that's not all that important. One thing which I do know is very important is letter of recommendations. Like someone who is writing your letter of recommendation, if that person knows the faculty advisor you're applying to, it's always it's just basically between you and me today. Like if you have to do something and then you get a word of recommendation from me whom you know personally, you will trust it a lot more than you get it from someone whom you don't know. And then on top of that, there is also a certain degree of earnestness. Like if the recommendation is really persuasive, if they write a lot of good points about you, then pretty much your faculty advisor will be taking you, because they're also taking a gamble. They don't know you, they haven't worked with you. So like to take you and fund you for 5 years, they'll probably trust the word of mouth of someone whom they personally know. So letter of recommendations are definitely very important. And in general, of course, one of the criteria for PhD programs is to like do good research. So if you have demonstrated some research experiences, I mean, publications are always like good and easy indicators, but I also don't want to like put publications as a point, because like it's okay. I mean, through this video we did talk about publications, but you also have to think a lot of people come from like underprivileged background where it's not possible to publish, because publication is also like a privilege. Like it was easy for me to publish because I was at Columbia, I was at USC, where there is already a set environment. Like maybe someone is coming from a school where there is no publication situation. So I do think that some people do not really care about publications, but in those situations, the letter of recommendations would still be very important. It's also helpful to like kind of try to read more papers if you're particularly applying in a certain field. It's good to sometimes cold email professors. Like if you're applying to a school, just cold email them. Like worst case, they cannot reply you, but sometimes like you might say something really interesting which might strike a chord with them, and they will reply to you, and then they will tell you to apply. Um, and one of the good things always is like to get involved in research early on. Like try to do very simple tasks like with your seniors. Like I personally learned a lot from like existing PhD students at Columbia. That's how I got introduced to research, because one of my mentors at Columbia was like Christopher Heidi, who was Kathy McEwen's PhD student now at Google. So he really guided me and mentored me a lot. It wasn't possible for me to learn everything on the job if he wasn't a mentor. And currently at Columbia also, I have mentored several undergrad students. One of them is graduating and is also presenting a paper at ACL with me and Smara. So I guess it's always good to just start working with someone and just gain some experience. And then through that, there could be a publication, which is always like a good proof that you are capable of doing research. But due to some reasons, if you cannot publish, it's still okay to get some research experience so that you can talk about it with the professor you're applying to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all these tips. I'm sure like these would be very helpful for all the students who are applying this year or next year. And if people watching this video have more questions, and they'll put them down in the comments, and it will be great if you can reply to them.
Yeah,
And
sure. I mean, they can also like feel free to email me, like if you want to put my website or like reach out to me in person. I'm happy to like help and talk to anyone who requires some sort of guidance in terms of applying for PhD, because I personally didn't know anyone, but I feel like if you or me, like I really appreciate what you're doing for everyone. Like it's such a thing which everyone does, but no one really has a concrete structured information about how to go about it. So whenever people are doing or applying these sort of thing, it's also like haphazard, and they talk to multiple people, get information. Some of them is trustworthy, some of them is just inflated. So I think it's good to have a structured thing everywhere. So yeah, I mean, they can feel free to email me or like reach out.
oh, perfect. That would be great. Thank you so much, Tuhin.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I don't have any more questions. So I guess we'll end the video here. And thank you so much for your time. I know it's really late in New York.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, bye. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Yeah, talk to you soon.